Hey all, welcome back to the channel. It's Monday. That means it's countdown day here on the channel. And if the eyes are the windows to the soul, then a face is an entire identity. And in the world of the Transformers, there are some faces that are very unique and very iconic, and other ones that are, well, used multiple times over on different characters. Which got me to thinking, which faces, which head sculpts, which actual characters, recognizable facial features are the best ones? So based on fan votes all across social media, we're going to look at the top 10 best faces, head sculpts in all of Transformers. That's going to be our focus this time around in the latest GotBot Counts Down. Hey all, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, your most humble of hosts, Dennis Moulton, aka GotBot. As always, man, please like, comment, share, of course, subscribe, and while you're at it, loud of my baby. That's right, hit that notification bell, please. It helps me out a ton, and it lets you know when content of all sorts goes up here on the channel. Check out Machinery of Man, The Everything Factor, all the groups that I'm either a mod or an admin for, as well as all of my social media links. All of that in the description down below. Also in the description down below. And if you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through spring. Or, of course, you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member at any time. And this is the top 10 best Transformers head sculpts. It included official, third party, whatever it was that people voted on. And it was a lot of Fast and Furious voting, a lot of different characters, so it was really kind of difficult to amass this one because people actually really got into it, which surprises me because I kind of thought it would be a very innocuous, probably not one of the more exciting ones, but man, oh man, did the voters get into this one. So with our honorable mentions, we have Transformers Legacy Bulkhead, which a lot of people said is one of the best head sculpts because it actually does, even though it was stylized with a nose, it actually does embody the character. Maybe the only thing about the mold that embodies the character, but very much does. Ironhide, a classic head sculpt there of a tough guy, right? Impactor, I thought that was a great one. The Siege Impactor, specifically people that voted for it really went with the mainline release, though there were a couple of votes for his Spartan head. I kind of lumped them all together because I think both head sculpts are really, really good, to be honest with you. Even if you wanted to throw in the slightly altered head sculpt from the Wreck and Roll pack, like, honestly, for different reasons, they're all really great head sculpts. And Studio Series Wreck-Gar. We've had Wreck-Gar in the past, but when you go back and you look at the reveal of the shield, like a lot of people said, well, that's a little more animated Wreck-Gar than G1 by the look of the grin and stuff on his face. And then we had the Power of the Primes, and people said, well, not really, it's a little bit too small. We've had some great ones from third party, but when the Studio Series 1 came out, a lot of people said the same thing. Wow, they really, really captured the character. It is a quintessential head for Wreck-Gar. So those guys, they are the honorable mentions. Once again, Legacy Bulkhead, Ironhide, Impactor, and Studio Series Wreck-Gar. None of them made the list. So you know what we're going to do, man? We're going to do as we always do. We're going to kick things off with number 10, a first. Now, number 10 is a quirky one. I'm pretty sure it was sold at as a convention exclusive. I certainly don't have it. It is a third-party offering. And I'm going to show this guy because, honestly, Wheelie is the closest that I have to this. But it is the X-Transbots Nelson. Now, why am I showing Wheelie? X-Transbots Nelson, apparently my understanding is that it was a convention exclusive. I think it was some sort of a collaboration or some sort of a custom that was done for Realm of Collectors, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. It is basically their Wheelie, their Ollie. I think it's the second version, and I could be wrong about that as well. But it seems to be Ollie, and it's done in Decepticon-y colors, maybe like a shattered glass Wheelie type of color. However, the head sculpt has such a grimace and such a grit to the face that the detailing on it and the paintwork put on it is undeniable. There's not a ton of images around. There's a couple of reviews around if you want to check it out. But X-Transbots Nelson scored enough votes that he was able to take the number 10 slot. Coming in at number 9 is a fan favorite character and a fan favorite iconic head sculpt with Cyclonus, specifically the Kingdom one, though, to be fair. Some people voted for like the cartoon head because I left it wide open. A few said the Classics Universe head, but most people said this one. There were a couple of votes for Quietus as well, which is like a third-party masterpiece version of Cyclonus, and that's a beautiful head sculpt as well. Nevertheless, the vast majority were specifically for the Kingdom Cyclonus. Yeah, I get it. I mean, I look at this head and I look at the angles of like the section above his eyes. I look at the angles of the horns and how they sort of stick out a little bit on the side, the coloration, and I'm like, this is quintessentially Cyclonus. Now, some people might prefer the coloration of the Selects version, for example, but the overall shape of this head, maybe the cheekbones seem a little off, but overall the shape and look of this head, you see it and it screams Cyclonus, and that's why Kingdom Cyclonus took the number 9 slot. Number 8 is a very interesting one because the people who voted for it actually don't really like, for the most part, the upcoming head for another version of this character. I know, it sounds really strange, but it will make sense when I show who it is, and it's none other than Kingdom Beast Wars Megatron. Yes! A lot of people said this is the head sculpt that they've been, like, always wanting for a version of Megatron. It is iconic, it is colored right, it looks foreboding, it looks the way the character should. A couple of people voted for his G1 head, but not many. And a lot of people who voted for this head being one of the best said the funny part is that they think the head sculpt for the upcoming Transmetal 2 version is going to be one of the worst. A lot of people don't really feel like that head sculpt captured the character, but this one, almost universally among fans, they felt like, yep, if nothing else, the head sculpt absolutely captures the sinister Beast Wars Megatron. How can you argue with it? Fans felt that this head sculpt was good enough that it was able to take the number 8 slot. Number 7 might be the coolest head sculpt with Jazz. Specifically G1 Jazz, though, to be fair, I like Jazz's head sculpt in like other iterations. For example, RID 2015, I liked his head sculpt there. It was a bit different, a bit of a departure, but I still enjoyed it. Here's what people said, and I'm using this one, but honestly, most people voted for G1 Jazz, and my G1 Jazz is over off to the side, up. He's a little more delicate, so I treat him with some kid gloves. So I figured, why not pull down old Studio Series? He did get a few, but yeah, G1 Jazz really. And people said the same thing. They said the face was always a very clean face. They said the visor always makes it seem like he's wearing sunglasses because whether the visor is silver or blue in this case, it always looks like he's got some cool shades on, and the way the rest of his head is sculpted is like a hairdo. Like, he seems like a cool cat, he seems like a cool guy, and everything from the back of his head to the sides to the, you know, visory sunglasses to just a non-assuming but very detailed face all come together to make one of the coolest characters have one of the coolest head sculpts, and Jazz took the number 7 slot. At number 6, we have the leader of the Stunticons with Motormaster, which shocked me because I figured with that boxy head, like, he's never going to get any votes. He's never going to get in. But fans love the legacy Motormaster head. Now, to be fair, some people also voted for the, I think it was Magic Square version, which is a pretty good head sculpt as well. What people liked here is they said even though it's boxy, it has so much added detail and it has so much personality, because when you look at the way the face itself is sculpted, we have very clear cheekbones and lips and the nose, but the way that it's painted with that kind of like purpley metallic-y paint, and the way then it captures the light and causes shadows to fall across the face, like, he looks like he's wearing a hood or a cloak. He looks like he's foreboding. He looks like if you met him in a dark alley that, like, it's gonna be bad. You see that face, you run, because what's going to follow is going to be real unpleasant. The detail is there, the foreboding nature is there, the intimidation factor is there. And as the leader of the often reckless and outlandish Stunticons, having such a foreboding, such a threatening nature is probably what keeps them in line. The head of legacy Motormaster took the number 6 slot. And here we are once again at the most coveted of locations, the halfway mark. And at the halfway mark, we have, again, very much a fan favorite character. Maybe the most favorite character of all of Transformers. Honestly, I think we did that list and I can't remember where this guy fell there. But I do know that he is the most heroic, and it's Dinobot, specifically the Kingdom version of Dinobot. And again, people said the same sort of thing. They said, look, the Kingdom version perfectly captures his animation look, which means you have that blue face that again is very detailed but also very stoic. You have those razor sharp teeth, which again for a warrior seems like it would make sense, especially something that turns into a dinosaur. And then the entire look of the helmet is something, and I thought this was interesting, it's something very gladiatorial about it. It's like something that feels like he could almost take the top of his head off because it's only a helmet rather than his actual head. And I've never thought about that before, but the more I look at it, the more I see the distinction between the blue of his face and then the goldish, orangey-ish, bronzish look of his helmet, of the rest of his head. I understand the dichotomy now, and I think it was probably always there, but I just never picked up on it. Did you pick up on it? Because yeah, now I kind of can't unsee it, right? Now I can't unsee the distinction between his face and his helmet head. Now they don't look like one cohesive piece to me. Now they look like him being dressed up to go into battle. I get it. I love it. The detail is there. The coloration is there. Everything screams warrior. And that's exactly what Dinobot is. And Kingdom Dinobot embodies that perfectly. And that's why this guy took the number 5 slot. Coming in at number 4, we have a character who always seems like he's wearing a crown in Galvatron. Now, to be fair, it's the G1 Galvatron who got the votes. And people didn't clarify if they meant the cartoon look or the actual original plastic release, right? I'm assuming the plastic release because the question was head sculpt. And I find that very interesting. Now, to be fair, while the G1 Galvatron head does not match this or the animation, there is still something very, regal almost about it. He has his very dark gray face, and it's surrounded by this entire light gray head sculpt, unless you have, some later releases. I think Takara did it in purple and stuff. But even so, it looks like a king. Like if you look at a playing card, sometimes you see like a king and he's wearing like his knight's armor and his crown right on top of his head. And that's what Galvatron felt like. A king who's actually dressed for battle, that's going to lead his troops into battle. That translated over to the cartoon as well. And even here with the Kingdom Galvatron, because the top, like the 3 prongs up here, do feel very much like a crown. Yeah, Galvatron has a tough, rugged face, whether we're talking about the G1 release or the animation model. In the animation model, I mean, he even has some arguable facial hair, if you want to count the bit on his chin. So he has a rugged, tough face. But then it's like he's perpetually wearing a crown, which kind of shows that he is an absolute ruler. And he does rule with an iron fist. Galvatron and his head sculpt took the number 4 slot. This one sort of surprised me, and at number 3 we have the head of Fortress Maximus. Now, again, the votes were for G1 Fortress Maximus. This is the Titans Return Fortress Maximus. There were votes for this head sculpt as well, but a lot of people said the G1. And granted, whether you're talking about this one or the G1, luckily there's a ton of detail on both. And I think because they're so large, they were able to do some really, really nice kind of sculpting and detail around the nose, around the shape of the eyes, even the shape of the mouth and the lips on both, this one or the G1. It is very distinct, it is very detailed, and at the same time, it feels very natural and almost organic, but not too organic that you lose the robotic metallic feel of it. It's a weird balance that they've managed to strike successfully in G1 and managed to strike successfully here. Luckily, even with Cerebros folding up to become the head, in both instances I feel like it's done in such a way that when you look at the actual head, it still looks like a head, right? It's a headmaster that succeeds in not just being a face with a body attached to it, but feeling like an actual head. Great accomplishment for G1 or for Titans Return. Fortress Maximus takes the number 3 slot. Coming in at number 2, we have Soundwave. Specifically the Netflix version, though it's the really exact same head for the Siege version, the difference being a red visor or a yellow visor. Both have tremendous light piping that works extremely, extremely well. Yeah, okay, cool, I get it. Why not Soundwave? I mean, how can you argue with his head sculpt being one of the best? After all, it is the basis for the Decepticon logo itself. When your face is prolific enough that they want to make the entire team's symbol, you know, as something based on it, then you know what? You got to have an iconic face, and you got to have an iconic head sculpt. From his gleaming visor to his very Decepticon, like logo-style upper head and head crest, right down to his faceplate. Soundwave. The Netflix Soundwave scored the #2 slot. And #1 both shocked me and didn't shock me. Shocked me because of the mold, the sculpt, that won. Didn't shock me because of the character that won. Of course, I'm talking about Optimus Prime. Specifically the Siege head sculpt, the mainline Earthrise head sculpt, and the mainline Kingdom head sculpt. I say that because all three of those have the same head sculpt, which is a pretty fantastic, pretty much quintessential Optimus head sculpt. However, the Netflix version with the dark blue had a slightly different head sculpt. I would say arguably better. I really thought that MP10 might have gotten the nod as the Optimus with the best head sculpt. And while that had a few votes, it didn't have anything that would compare with the votes for the mainline Optimus War for Cybertron head sculpt. I also thought that maybe the MP44, because I think the MP44, while grossly overpriced, I think that that head sculpt is perfect. Absolute perfection for an Optimus head sculpt. So I'm surprised that that one didn't get the nod. Optimus Prime, I think, was probably bound to be #1. What head sculpt, what version of Optimus Prime, that's what was up for debate. And the fans can't be silenced because their votes clearly indicated that Siege, Earthrise, Kingdom Optimus Prime's head sculpt took, with ease, the #1 slot. And man, that is 10 down to 1, but that's not all the votes we had. Reveal the Shield Lugnut had some votes. MP Prowl, Cybertron Sideways, Animated Shockwave, Transmetal 2 Jawbreaker, Volcanicus, Zeta's Superion, MP10, MP44. G1 Ironhide had a vote. I thought that was funny. I'm sure it was a joke, but I had to throw it in there. Generations Drift, great head sculpt there. Road Holler. I don't like the screaming open face, but you know, that's just me, right? To each their own. Who else? Because there were so many. Vector Prime. Again, there's a nod there to being the Autobot symbol, even though the Autobot symbol is based on Prowl, but there's a nod with Vector Prime for sure. Power of the Primes, Rodimus Prime. 86 Sludge. Bay Optimus Prime, G-Axis with his vent things, the Siege Lambo head sculpt, like for, I don't know, Sideswipe, G1 Menasor, Bombshell, 07 Brawl, IDW Blur, Punch and Counterpunch, because technically there's two heads there, Combiner Wars Breakdown, SS13 Megatron, I would agree with you, that was a great head sculpt. Prime Predaking, G1 Scourge, G1 Prowl, Prime RC, Shatterglass Nah, Kickback, Studio Series, I said Shatterglass Nah, I meant Shatterglass, I meant Studio Series Nah, and Studio Series Grimlock, and Studio Series Hot Rod. Gee whiz. What else do we have here? Earthrise Sunstreaker, Studio Series Galvatron, the new one from Age of Extinction. Generation Selects Hotshot, Thrustinator, IDW Tarn. I thought Tarn was going to have more. Transmutate, specifically the BAF Transmutate. G1 Megatron, G1 Metroplex. Sideswipe, Hunt for the Decepticons, Breacher, Earthrise Scorponok, HasLab Unicron, Air Razor, Off-Road from Combiner Wars, Revenge of the Fallen, Dirt Boss, Straxus or Dark Mount if you prefer, Thrilling 30 Jetfire, I thought that was an interesting one, DX9's, I can't read that, it's a DX9 something and I scribbled it down, I can't read it, Ramjet, Earthrise RC, 86 RC, Earthrise, Quintesson Judge, MP Soundwave, and I don't know, let's say Brainstorm to end us out. Let me know if your favorite made the list or even got any votes. I appreciate you guys coming by, giving me some of your extremely valuable time. I do know how important it is to you. If you're in a position to help the channel to grow, you can use the donate link. You can check us out on Patreon. You can see what we have to offer to you through Spring, or of course you can hit the join button right here on YouTube and become a channel member. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Stick around, have some fun with us here on the channel. Especially don't forget that somehow, someway, each and every single solitary day, you do make a difference in the world. And I look forward to the next time that you and I get together to have another visit, either in the live streams on Thursday nights, at the stop motion premieres, or the old fashioned way right here inside the video.